The Mindful Medic podcast is proudly sponsored by the Medical Benevolent Association of New South Wales, ACT. The MBA is an independent charity that has been supporting doctors in New South Wales and the ACT since 1896. They provide specialised counselling, information, referral and financial assistance to doctors and their families during times of adversity or hardship. Their aim is to provide non-judgmental support so that the doctor or family member recovers their well-being and independence and, wherever possible, returns to their vocation. Their services are free, specialised and no referral is necessary. All contact is kept strictly confidential and they are independent of any regulatory body. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Cheryl Martin. I'm an emergency doctor, yoga teacher, avid trail runner, eternal student, and my mind is full. In this podcast, we have been exploring broader paradigms of what it means to have good health, well-being, and perform at our best. And I've introduced guests who certainly inspire me and I feel have expertise and perspective worth sharing. So in this episode, we revisit a topic that's very close to my heart. I get to indulge my passion for trail running and pursuit of the wild places. And this conversation was also inspired by two other experiences I've had this week. So firstly, I finally got round to watching A Life on Our Planet, the superb documentary by Mr. David Attenborough that's available on Netflix. And if you haven't had an opportunity to watch that, I highly recommend. It really is a call to action. And how incredible is Mr. Attenborough at 93? I'm planning a future episode on the factors influencing longevity, and I really want to get Dan Buettner on the podcast. I'm working on that one. But gee, if I make it to 93, I certainly want to emulate that inspirational man. And the other experience I was very fortunate to have relates to my trail running community and a race that we were very fortunate to have go ahead this weekend here in Queensland, so the Blackhall 100. There's so many races have been cancelled around the world, so many runners have been limited in terms of where they can go to really seek out their own wild places and trails. And so I feel very fortunate that we were allowed to have this go ahead. I think it went very well and followed an excellent COVID safe plan. And there was a lot of emotion out there. I think this sense of community and just appreciation of our sport, of our connection to the earth and to each other was definitely apparent. And I was running with a couple of people who were experiencing ultra running, if you like, for the first time. And they really commented on the highs and lows they experienced in the middle of the race. And I do think that ultra running and endurance running is like a microcosm of life. The ups, the downs, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns. So with that in mind, I hope you enjoy today's episode.
You've just got to make a decision, and whatever decision you make is going to be right. There are no wrong ones, because we'll either win or we'll learn, I guess. So having the courage to actually decide instead of letting life decide for me was a really big step. And once I decided, then things became, there were still challenges, but things became a lot easier because I knew where I was going.
That was the wisdom of Kirra Balmanno. Kirra is a vet and an ultra runner and athlete. and I'm lucky to have known Kirra now for several years and follow her journey professionally and personally. I really wanted to have her on the podcast because I think she has an important experience and perspective to share. In this conversation, Kirra relates how the challenges of trying to be and do it all as a vet and athlete early in her career led to a spiral of injury, setbacks and burnout. We discuss how she used these experiences as an impetus to drive her ambition, regain her sense of adventure and take a step into the unknown. And this has subsequently led her on a life path which she herself admits that she previously could only have dreamt of. Kirra definitely likens her trail running and endurance feats as a reflection of life, a microcosm of all our highs and lows and challenges. We discuss minimalism, what it means to be happy, and the empowerment afforded when we push past physical and mental boundaries. So I think in a year of adversity, challenge and so many lows, Kirra reminds us that resilience and the ability to endure demands that we keep our sense of hope, spirit of adventure and continue to dare to dream big. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Hi Kirra, it is so nice to connect with you from the other side of the world. So I don't actually know where you are right now because you've been in a few places recently. So I want to know two things immediately. Where are you geographically? And have you been relocated with your one-woman van?
Hi, Shez. So great to talk to you again. Yes, currently I'm in a little village called Meerdes, which is just above Innsbruck. And setting the scene here today, there's mountains like 360 degrees around me, but I can't see any of them because they're all covered in fog. We've had a little bit of snow already this season, so it's a nice day to be like cozy inside. Yeah. The van is parked out the front. So
was it a struggle to find it?
Yeah.
I just saw a picture of lots of overgrown trees.
Yeah, it still needs a wash actually on the outside. And some ants kind of made home on the inside during the winter. So it was good to, give it a nice clean up. Yeah. And it's cool to be reunited with it. But I guess during the current situation of the world, I can't use it that much at the moment. Can't travel super wide yet.
So I have already introduced you, but I wanted to go on a little bit of a journey into the past and then a wee bit about the present, and then we'll maybe kick off towards hopefully a bigger, brighter future. I wanted to go on a journey of your past through the pre-pandemic years, we'll call them, of vet, van and trail running life. So, you and I connected quite a number of years ago now in Melbourne when you were a young vet. You're still a young vet, but probably quite newly qualified at that stage, at that quite intense part of your early career. Yeah. And I obviously knew that you'd come from this part of the world up here on the sunny coast and had quite a reputation as an up and coming trail runner then. I think we met in the Dandenongs. And and then you disappeared. So I got to kind of live precariously through you as you just followed some amazing adventures. And I did get to meet you in Europe in the midst of all that. So tell us a wee bit about the impetus behind that and what you got up to.
Yeah, for sure. I guess like I grew up in Brisbane and studied veterinary science and then moved to Melbourne when I graduated and had my first job at a clinic near the Dandenongs, which is quite stressful. I'm sure you can relate to that, being a doctor. Just the first years out, it's kind of like, really going into the deep end and it's very different from the study. So, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the learning and everything, but certainly a stressful period of my life, I think, where, I was probably working a little bit too much and also biting off way more than I could chew, trying to be a good athlete and perform at the level that I thought I was capable of. So I guess, it was cool for a few years in Melbourne, but then some injuries and I think stress and relationship problems kind of all accumulated and snowballed. So I had a bit of a, awakening.
Yeah.
And
I like that, epiphany.
Yeah, exactly.
So much better than meltdown, isn't it? I think I probably just had meltdowns.
It's a lot of meltdowns leading to, a bit of an awakening. And I realized, or asked myself the question a lot, like, is there more to life than this? Is there more to life than like ticking off these, I guess, boxes that society tells us to tick off at these certain periods in our life?
Yep.
And I was never one for going along that path. So, it took me a while, but I, decided to follow, I guess, what I'd always been dreaming about, which was, moving over to Europe and living abroad.
So there's a lot of people that dream about things and, maybe feel that they are on a treadmill or ticking boxes, but not everybody has the drive or makes that step into the unknown. And I would say it is stepping out of, your comfort zone, even if you are not quite happy where you are. And I suppose on reflection, I suspect you probably have thought about this, anything, maybe about you and your life and maybe past experience that made you be the one that could do that and follow your dreams, do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I think being really uncomfortable where you are helps the motivation to really, if you're really unhappy in a certain situation, then it just pushes you further if you already have the motivation to follow a certain path as well.
Anybody else in your life at that time that maybe helped or encouraged you?
One of my good friends said to me when I was feeling quite lost, you've just got to make a decision, and whatever decision you make is going to be right. There are no wrong ones, because we'll either win or we'll learn, I guess. So having the courage to actually decide instead of letting life decide for me was a really big step. And once I decided, then things became, there were still challenges, but things became a lot easier because I knew where I was going and made that choice on my own. So,
Perfect, yeah. And so can you remember what it was like when you first took those steps? And because you took a job, first of all, in London. Was it London, first of all?
Yeah, no. I quit my job in Melbourne and I drove back to the Sunshine Coast with all my things in my little car and locumed as a vet there for a few months, got my visa ready and then, headed off to the UK. Never been to London before. Arrived and I think I knew one person in the country, like a vet, friends that I'd studied at uni with, and just kind of like jumped into the deep end again. But I think there's only one way to do it, and that's the way, and you just learn as you go. So I started my own company when I got over there and started locuming, and it was, there were challenges, but it was like everything I could handle. So, and it just has led to, the most incredible places that I could have never imagined, when I was still in Melbourne. So.
And there's so much, I think, that resonates with me, having, taken the step the other direction. Probably a wee bit younger than you, and probably about the same stage actually in my career. And I am I'm quite aware that quite often, my life fits in a car, and and that kind of, how simple that is, and the flexibility. And I'm quite aware we both don't have ties, and you can, it gives you a bit more ability to do these things. But still, I want to know, from that, because I think you probably just threw yourself into work from what I can gather again, and I've certainly been guilty of doing that. But there was a circuit breaker at some point. So I want to know how we started with the van. How did the van come about? And then how did you re-inspire your love for running?
Sure. So I'd gone through some pretty tough injury situations when I was still in Melbourne. I had some stress fractures, and it took me a long time to recover. And I think stress was a huge part of that for me. Mm-hmm. So when I made this decision to follow my dreams and my passion, then that stress kind of dissipated or changed, and I could deal with it a lot better. And then, the body started getting stronger again. And, like a week into my, move to the UK, I went and joined a friend in Switzerland for a week of mountain running, and it just changed my life. And I fell in love with the Swiss Alps, and just things have kind of snowballed out of control since then. So this is, where I first fell in love with really the real mountain running, and just pursuing I guess big goals to do with the mountains in different countries, and trying to get out of my comfort zone and learn as much as possible. So it led me to Nepal as well, where I ran through the Himalayas a few years ago. And when I was there, I just thought, hey, this would be really cool to get a van back in the UK and drive around the Alps during the summers. And I was pretty lucky with my job. It was really flexible in the UK as a locum. So, it was easy because I had a house and a car when I was in the UK, and then I could just go for the summer in a van, and it worked really well.
So tell me about the first experience, or, that a memorable experience when you arrived in those mountains in Switzerland. What was it? You've said to me before that you feel at home in Europe.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if it's because my grandparents are Italian, or I don't know, watching the Tour de France when I was younger or something. I've just always had this affinity to come here. And when I did, I was really excited to go to Switzerland even before I arrived. And when I got there, I spent the week in Gimmerwald, which is kind of above the Lauterbrunnen Valley. And it's just, it's like a fairy tale. Just mountains everywhere, and waterfalls and pine forests, and it's just trail running dreams are made of this.
And what would a day of van life look like for Kirra back then, and probably now too?
Now as well. Definitely get up and have some coffee. And then pick a route probably the night before, check the weather, pack my bag, and then in the morning head out. It's often before sunrise as well, so you can get up somewhere high and see a beautiful sunrise in the mountains. And I guess running for 6 to 8 hours is the best way to do it. And just taking it easy and enjoying being in such beautiful places.
And you've talked about some setting big goals, and you really have set some pretty big goals over the past few years. I'm not sure what you yourself would consider to be amongst the biggest of those goals, but certainly your trip to Georgia seemed to be right up there. I did actually have to look at the map to find out exactly where Georgia was. So I do feel like I've educated myself a bit about that part of the world, but I'd love to hear a bit more about how that journey and adventure came about.
Yeah, the first time I was in Nepal, I met like three different sets of people that said, "Oh, if you love running in the Himalayas, you should go to Georgia and run through the Caucasus." And I had never heard of it either. I knew it was a country, but I didn't know the mountains.
And the highest mountain there, is it one of the highest in Europe?
Mount Kazbegi. It's I think. Ooh, good question.
Yeah, I think it might be. I'll have to look that one up.
One of the highest. Yeah, it's badass. Yeah, so I was really intrigued, and I thought, this is kind of strange that these separate people have told me this. So I looked into it, and then I got some contacts for trail runners in Georgia, and they helped me to devise a route through the Caucasus. And the more I kept exploring what was there and the potential, the more I realized like no one has done this stuff before, and no one has really gone there and run all these beautiful trails. And but there was a lot of potential because there's like guest houses in little villages in the mountains there, which is what I really love. And that's why I keep going back to, I guess, the Himalayas, because you've got Nepal's tea houses, and you can run with a really small pack and just go for days and days and go through big mountains, but be confident that you're going to have somewhere to sleep at night and be able to get some food. So you don't.
And what about, I mean, 'cause the other side of that is safety. This is uncharted territory. Part of this is very close to a war zone, well, technically still. And you talk that certainly in the article I read in Trailrunner magazine. I mean, it might help being a vet, but there was a lot of wild animals out there too. How did you? I mean, I think I might be a little bit terrified by by the prospect, and also not knowing what the climate is going to bring and the terrain and the risks associated with that. So how did you kind of navigate that? Because I know you spent a long time in the pre-planning.
Yeah. I like being adventurous and taking risks, but I'm definitely not one for taking stupid risks. I like to educate myself first. So I did a fair amount of research on Georgia, and the main thing that comes up is, or the most dangerous thing is the German Shepherd dogs that protect the sheep, and they're in the mountains alone, and these dogs can be like 80 kilos, and their job is to protect the sheep. So there have been people that have been like bitten and stuff like that. So just being aware of that. And I mean, if you keep a wide berth and you keep a lookout for sheep and stay away from them, then it's okay. And the weather can be pretty crazy there as well, pretty capricious. But going at the time I did at the beginning of August was it's the most stable time of the year. So we could avoid like thunderstorms on the top of the passes, which we didn't want because we were going up to like 3,500 meters, and before the snow comes as well. So
you covered over 300 odd kilometers and over 11 days, and it was something like 20,000 meters of vertical ascent.
20,000 meters.
Actually sounded like the local brew was also a potential danger or hazard.
I think that was the most dangerous.
Tell me about the locals, because it sounded like they were actually very hospitable. And what was it in Georgia? A visitor is a gift from God. Is that
guests are a gift from God. So we got treated so well. Everyone was so welcoming, and I guess we were a bit of a novelty as well, because we had these small packs with us, and we just ran from village to village, up and over a pass every day, and long distances as well, compared to what people hike or are walking or driving in these places. So it was pretty cool to rock up at a new village for the evening, and they're like, "Where did you come from?" And it was like 40 k's away.
Did anyone believe you?
I'm not sure actually, but then there was always the offer of cha-cha, which is like the local kind of moonshine. But once you start partying with these guys, they don't stop filling up your cups. So Lucas and I were very careful not to wipe out, because we knew we had to run another big pass and another marathon back to back. So yeah.
That reminds me of when we were in Croatia last year, and we came across a group of hikers, and they were passing around a bottle of local brew which had some kind of, I don't know, herb or something in it, and all the guys took something, and they were all like, oh, it felt like terps. They were burping, or it smelled like that up the mountain. I was like, oh, no, kill your curie.
But it was really important for us to like embrace the local culture, to be a part of it. We weren't there to do any FKTs or break any records. We wanted to really immerse ourselves in everything that Georgia was, not just the running. So
is that the most physically demanding thing you've done?
Probably no. I think racing is more physically demanding.
So Monte Rosa, would that have been one of the ones?
Yeah.
Tell us about that, and tell us about pushing limits there.
Yeah, I guess I did the Ultra Tour Monte Rosa in 2017, and it was quite wild weather, snowing on the top of Monte Moro and raining for a lot of the race. So that was a tough one. And Lizzie Hawker definitely knows how to put on a tough race. So
for people who don't know, many-time champion of the UTMB. So what is the distance in Monte Rosa?
It was 116 kilometres that year, but they've changed it now to 100.
And where does it start?
It depends which one you do. The miler starts in Grecin, and the 120 started in Gressone or Cervigno, in Italy, and you run back to Switzerland, up and over about 3 passes, over 3,000 metres. So, it's a lot of climbing.
So what tell me what were the challenges, and where did you go to in that race?
Yeah, I guess you go to many places during a race like that. It took a long time to do, a long time to run it, and you go through these highs and lows, and sometimes you can be in a low for hours, and then just your body.
So how do you deal with that?
Always keeping in perspective that things change, like life changes and your feelings change, and just trusting that if you feel bad at one point, it's not going to be there forever. So you'll come out of it, and then you can feel really good and feel really like high and in this flow state, and everything's working smoothly, and you're in a really positive frame of mind. And you just enjoy it, even though you might have been running for like 80 Ks and it's snowing and 0 degrees or something. Yeah.
How do you keep that sustainable now? Because it can be addictive to just, seek out those peak experiences, but it is, as you say, it's a lot of load, it's a lot of pressure and demand on the body. How do you think you ride that? I know that you don't race all the time.
Yeah, I don't race that often actually. I think that puts a lot of stress on the body. But like the long distance projects that I do, it's not as fast, but it's longer and you're completely reliant on yourself as well. So it's a different kind of challenge. Equally as uncomfortable at times, but in a different way and I think they balance each other quite well. And I guess just 10 years of running long distances and always doing endurance sports has helped a lot. Yeah.
And does running help life or life help running?
Good question. I think I think a bit of both. That's a really good question. Yeah. I think running definitely, helps life. It makes you realize things. Yeah, like the equanimity of everything and that things change. When I was in Nepal, I think the third year, I did a 10 days of silent meditation called Vipassana. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
I haven't. I don't know if I can contemplate. Tell me about that, your experience.
Yeah, it was interesting because the day before I went into these 10 days, I mean, you sit there for 14 hours a day meditating. And I thought, oh gosh, I don't know if I can do this. I can't sit still for that long. I struggle to meditate for a few minutes. But this would be an interesting challenge. So the day before, I ran up to Annapurna Base Camp and back in a day. I thought that would tire me out, so I'd be comfortable to sit for that long. And during that, I mean, you're running for 10, 12 hours and I guess you realize things like discomfort comes and goes, the high, your feelings ebb and flow.
And was your meditation experience very similar?
It was. It's like a real contrast because you're doing the exact opposite thing. You're not doing something physically challenging, but I guess mentally challenging for sure. And it kind of came to the same conclusions, which is interesting. Yeah.
Would you do it again?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So I wanted to go on a bit up to the present date because we met again. I was very fortunate to connect with you again at the beginning of the year, just as the world went to pot. And I know that you'd planned to travel back to Nepal, so via Nepal back to Europe in early March. That was just about the time that we managed to go for a run together, and this was just as I think you saw me in a pretty stressed and foreboding state as I kind of knew what was going to happen as the world sequentially locked down. So you found yourself back working as a vet in the town that you grew up, and this is what I find most fascinating. You've actually been very busy through this period, and the patients that you were treating, had perhaps similar problems to what I was seeing in the human population. So I'd love you to tell me a bit more about our stressed out kitty cats and overwalked doggies.
Yeah, definitely. It was strange. I'd come back to Australia for a few months to visit family and get back into vet life a bit more again. And when COVID hit, I mean, people are working from home more, people are more stressed out. And I was seeing at the clinic a lot more cats with bladder problems, which is, directly related to stress. They can have these idiopathic cystitis process in their body. So, we were seeing a lot more of that. And then also people were at home more, and so they're taking their dogs for more walks or taking them to the beach or play dates a lot more. And everyone's arthritis was flaring up. We were getting lots of lame dogs in, and it was funny to see the changes.
I find that really interesting. So obviously you wanted to get back into vet. Do you find that you go for periods of time where you miss and you crave your profession again?
Yeah, I feel like I guess I just really like challenging myself. And so, yeah, going back into vet and using my brain in a different way and, yeah, working, yeah.
And how do you reconcile, I'm going to call it sensible practical studious Kirra with the adventure seeking, peak bagging, wilderness loving Kirra?
Yeah, a contrast, isn't it? I guess
although there's a lot of vets who are ultra runners. I know a lot of vets.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like this high achieving kind of personality that causes that. But yeah, I guess I'm quite driven and focused on like long-term goals. So I like to, yeah, I guess, yeah, just challenge myself in different ways, whether it's like, yeah, professionally as a vet or using my brain a bit more, or then you go into the mountains and you run for 10 days, up and over things. It's also a challenge in some way.
And so at that time you had all these plans, and I mean, I've spoken about this on other episodes of the podcast, but you know, you're suddenly being told that no, that's not going to happen, and you're being forced to sit and stay, and you know, tame that kind of wild and wandering side. How did you sit with that?
Yeah, at the beginning, I thought, this is cool. This is a good way to challenge myself to just accept and surrender what is, because it really, I think COVID opened everyone's eyes to, even if we are as comfortable and safe in our life as possible, things change. And we have no control over some things. So it was cool to like see all these plans that I had. Like I had plans to go to Nepal and do another project there with On and a photographer. And then I had races planned all summer in the Alps, which I was really looking forward to. But yeah, when it happened, it's like, okay, this is the new normal.
The new normal.
Yeah, and we just have to accept that and work with it as best we can. So I was like quite motivated in the beginning to learn something new and just focus on some different goals and set up, so later on I'll be able to go back to the mountains and play and keep reminding myself that mountains don't go anywhere, so they're always going to be there, which is good. But after a period of time, I guess I felt a bit stagnant. I wasn't learning as much. And I think you can relate to this, Shez, that, you just get itchy feet. And I think once you've got this like travel bug or like addiction to exploration, then it gets challenging to like sit and stay. So making the most of it, trying to.
So you did something. I mean, I think it's still pretty brave, because in the middle of all of this, you did find a way to deploy your parachute, and you've made it back. But I don't know the next part of the story. What have the challenges been doing this in this year of all times?
I felt like I really needed to get back by the end of it. It was challenging to kind of get permission to leave Australia and then, come here and set myself up again over in Europe. And now that it's getting colder again, numbers in cases of COVID are increasing. It's it's very uncertain about what the future holds. I don't think I've ever been so uncertain about where I'm headed before. I've been, I think, the last few years pretty good at just taking things as they come, but I've always got this kind of idea of like loosely where I'm going. And at the moment, like you can't travel.
And I think that's everyone. I mean, I don't think you're alone. I think we're actually united around the world in that feeling. Yeah. I am, I mean, even if you're not a 5-year planner, just, a lot of us do have a couple of goals, a couple of things that we're working towards, and even in the short term, and nothing is, predictable or certain.
So it's kind of, it's a little bit scary, I guess, but also quite exciting. And just challenge ourselves to accept this and see what happens, like make the most of it. Think of it as an opportunity rather than a brick wall.
I was reading an article about a couple in Scotland who've hired a couple of vans, and they're renting them out to go just to people to go traveling in the north of Scotland, and they look pretty well kitted out like yours. So tell me, I want you to tell people the inside of this. Explain the inside of Kirra's van. So what are the essentials? If you're going to live the simple life, what are your must-haves?
I adore my van. One of my very good friends helped me to build it, and it's nicely kind of insulated inside, so it stays pretty warm in the cold and cool in the summers. It's got this beautiful pine ceiling, so it just feels like a mountain cabin, I think. But then I've got these banana print curtains that I love, which kind of brings a little bit of Australia's tropical back to me, which is nice. And it's pretty simple. I didn't want something that had all these high-tech gadgets to make it more comfortable. I just wanted something simple that I could use and be grateful for all the little things. So I guess it's got enough storage for all my running gear. And then I guess the essentials are more my speakers. I've got some good speakers to play nice music, and my
coffee. Tea
as well.
And so you said everything is up in the air, but I mean, I think in August this year you were planning to take a group through Georgia, which would sign me up when this happens. So tell me about the company you set up, Type 2 Running Adventures, and where do you think? I mean, I know you can't predict, we're getting races cancelled right, left, and centre. But what if things go and do improve? What would be the plans for next year?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess my friend who I started the company with, Type 2 Run, we both have jobs outside of this, so we can just let it grow when the world opens again. But basically we just want to share our love for the mountains with others and show people really unique places to go that a lot of people would not want to go to on their own. I think even myself, without having my photographer in Georgia with me and best running buddy, I don't know if I'd want to go there alone. So having that opportunity and following that with locals and getting into the culture as well is what we really value. So we've got a nice run in Georgia through the Caucasus.
Anything else planned?
A few in the Alps. We've got a really cool run in Innsbruck, which has been our home for the last few years. And we've got great trails here to share with the world. And then also South Tyrol. It's our second home. When it's too cold in Innsbruck, it's usually sunny in South Tyrol, so we go there.
Perfect.
And then Switzerland, of course.
And what will the next few months look like for you at the moment, or are you not quite sure yet?
I think I've got to learn to ski, actually.
Ooh.
The snow's coming. So I think now's the time.
Yeah, great.
I've kind of avoided it for the last few years, but I can't avoid it much longer. So I've got to embrace, skiing.
And how's your German coming along?
It's good. Danke.
I really love that you were watching yoga classes in German to help your language skills. I think that would improve mine. I really should be doing something like that. Ingenious.
Yeah, I could probably teach like a yoga class in German, but
Yeah.
I can't have a basic conversation yet.
I think my brother was doing something similar. He was watching some television shows in Spanish when he's been learning, so that's been helping him. It's a really clever way to do it.
I like TED Talks with German subtitles is a good way to go too. Then you're like double learning.
So I've jotted down a couple of questions so we can further indulge the trail runners who are listening. I'd love you to tell me about your favourite trail.
Oh, I spent a summer living in my friend's chalet in the Swiss Alps in this little village called Sporn, and it's got a very close place to my heart now. And there's a beautiful trail that runs from the front door up to a peak that's like almost 3,000 meters behind the house. And you can see a beautiful sunrise from there over the biggest glacier in Switzerland, and you can see the Matterhorn in the other direction. And there's always like chamois running around up there. So it's just breathtaking. And then you run down and it's like flow trails all the way back home for like 20 kilometers. And this is just epic. You have to come.
Yeah, like that's going to take much persuasion. What about a favourite local trail here in Australia?
I really love when I was, stuck in Australia. I fell in love with this, the Marucci Botanical Gardens, just near my house on the Sunshine Coast.
Oh, that can't be far from me. I need to go there.
It's like a 7K loop. It's quite small, but it's a beautiful technical trail through the rainforest. Yeah. And I used to go there every morning and do a run before work. And you hear the bird sounds and you hear the like little stream, the trickle of the stream, and it was just like meditation. It was super nice, and it really helped me to get through a few uncertain months.
What are your trail essentials, be it nutrition or gear, or what are your must-haves? What can't you leave for the mountains without?
Ooh. I think the mountains, I always carry like a waterproof jacket and a buff. A buff is probably the best thing, because when you're doing these like multi-day runs, it has so many uses. It's like your towel, your handkerchief, your beanie. It's just perfect for everything. So.
Favorite trail conditions, summer or winter?
Summer, for sure.
Hardest race?
Hardest race. I mean, hardest like Ultra Tour Monte Rosa. That's like brutal.
Hottest?
It's not the hottest. I think I ran the relief run that Samantha Gash put on earlier this year for the bushfires, and I did that when I was locoming up in Darwin.
Ooh.
And it was so hot. It was like 30-something degrees.
If Charlotte Durand is listening to this, she'll appreciate that. She's a doctor and triathlete up there at the moment, and her runs like sweaty slogs. I don't think I'd cope. And I know you love peanut butter like me, but other trail nutrition or favorite post-run snacks, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, peanut butter is great.
I think we're trying to get Kirra a peanut butter sponsor, really. I want one as well. Yeah, Bar and B.
Yeah, for sure.
Fuel for life.
Yeah, oats and peanut butter before my run, and then afterwards, I like a big bowl of like vegetables and chickpeas or tofu. some
Love a good
protein,
chickpea.
carbohydrates, brown rice. Yeah.
What any advice for me running Blackall this weekend?
Ooh, that's exciting.
Which you previously won, yeah.
Yeah, enjoy it. Yeah, there's some really nice like technical sections through the rainforest. Yeah, enjoy them.
Yeah. I feel very lucky that we're getting out there to run and race. Yeah. Doing this for everyone that can at the moment. Okay.
Yeah, so true. And then keep hydrated. It gets quite hot there as well.
So before we go on to the closing part of this episode, I just wanted to return to something that you alluded to pretty early on in our conversation today. And it's something that, it probably has partly inspired this whole podcast, and we certainly have visited and discussed in previous episodes. In my episode with Dr. Sheila Veja, we talked about occupational burnout, not just in the medical profession. I think the conversation is relevant in many workplaces today, and certainly at this time. But it is certainly, burnout and vicarious trauma is something that is not only recognised in medicine, it's certainly recognised in the veterinary world. I remember watching a recent documentary on this very topic in vets, and I made me think of a colleague I have who is a physician but was formerly a vet, and who was going to actually work in Antarctica. And for that particular role, which is very challenging, you have to be in a position to be both surgeon and anaesthetist. And she laughed at me when I was saying, how will you navigate that? That's just sounds so challenging. And she said, I've been a vet, I'll just use my elbow to inflate and deflate the bag. And, and I was incredulous. But, thinking about your patients who can't necessarily communicate with you, and families that you are, or owners that you're also dealing with, frequently working independently with maybe minimal support all hours of the day and night. So I can completely understand that these pressures build up over time. So I know that like me, you've had your highs and lows through your training and your career, and I just wondered, with the retrospectoscope, if you like, what advice you would give to, newly qualified vets, or anyone at any point in their veterinary career who find themselves struggling.
Yeah, I think the first few years out, you're kind of like learning your way. I think it really would help to have a good mentor and support in those early years. Definitely helps to have a great team behind you as well. There's some incredible nurses out there, and if they have confidence in you and you trust them, working as a team is so important. And I think that it makes or breaks your career, I think. And just, recognizing that we're not perfect. I think a lot of us, like in the medical and veterinary industry, are perfectionists, high achievers, but to just be okay with not being perfect, but being the best that we can be, is important.
Yeah, I think that's, definitely. Nothing is perfect.
Yeah, and embracing challenges instead of fearing them, like diving in.
And you've obviously now put yourself in quite a few different work environments, and, that kind of flexibility, because it is challenging to locum, and we've done that as well. But I quite like that you do go to a different place, and, you're kind of suddenly in a different set of circumstances. What has that taught you? Do you think that's made you, more able to cope with, I suppose, uncertainty?
Yeah, for sure. I think it was a big learning curve when I first started locuming, because you've got a little bit of experience, but you're not sure, every clinic's different, people and teams do things differently. But just to go in with an open mind and a willingness to learn and grow, then that's really cool. And I think the more you do it and practice it, the better you become at being fine, just like fitting into any situation and taking it as it comes. Yeah.
So what does good health mean to you?
Good health. Good question. I guess it's a holistic thing. It's not just about the physical, but definitely the mental and emotional aspects as well. And I think that's all tied together. So, yeah, you kind of got to, work on all three.
Yeah. And what does that look like for you?
Good question.
Doesn't have to look like anything. No. I know you've already talked about, some of your challenges and the way that you've dealt with them, but do you have like a kind of emergency toolbox, if you like, or some certain things that you, or maybe a checklist or a mantra or something that you'll pull out when you're particularly struggling?
Yeah, I think I don't really do balance very well. I'm like all in or all out. So, but there's a few things that I try to keep as rituals that I know help me to be my best. And if I stop doing these, then something goes off. So I think like exercising every day is so important, and also occasionally pushing yourself as well physically. And then also I think meditation has been really great for me. I never used to do that, but then since like cultivating this as a daily habit has been it just helps you to
what does your meditation practice look like?
It's at the moment it's only like 20 minutes to 30 minutes mostly. Sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's 10 minutes every evening before I go to bed. And then I usually do some yoga in the morning as well. And also journaling for me is a really big thing, and it's something that I started when I went through that low about 5 years ago before I moved to abroad. And I think I've put myself in stressful situations and uncomfortable ones and uncertain ones since then. But I think journaling and like constantly reevaluating and reflecting helps a lot to learn about yourself.
And we've come up with the idea of self-care Sundays, but we're quite aware that some of the people I've asked actually are always usually working on a Sunday, but which sometimes you are too. But if you had an ideal day that you could design for yourself, I pretty much have a picture of what yours will involve, but if you wanted to take me there.
Yeah, I guess it would be coffee, a long run in the mountains, come back, stretch, eat lots of food, and then spend the evening with really great friends, which are all positive and inspiring and driven in their own ways.
Yeah, well, I mean, I find you positive and inspiring, so thank you. Yeah. You have been listening to Kirra Balmanno. You can find out more about Kirra and follow her adventures on the links listed in the show notes. Just wanted to finish with something that Kirra penned herself in her journal, explaining how she feels when she explores wild places. She says, "My mind expands just like the expansive landscapes surrounding me. The simplicity of just moving in the mountains makes space for creativity. When I live my life denying resistance and falsifying my own limitations, these artificial constraints dissolve into nothingness. We all have the choice to live the life of our wildest dreams, and running long, far, and wild helps me realise this."
Always keeping in perspective that things change, like life changes and your feelings change, and just trusting that yeah, if you feel bad at one point, it's not going to be there forever. So you'll come out of it, and then you can feel really good and feel really like high and in this flow state, and everything's working smoothly and you're in a really positive frame of mind. Yeah, and you just enjoy it, even though you might have been running for like 80 Ks and it's snowing and 0 degrees or something. Yeah.
The MBA New South Wales ACT does wonderful work for those of our colleagues who are, at this very minute, experiencing a hard time. One way you can show you care about doctors' welfare is to go to their website, www.mbansw.org.au, and donate today. Knowing that their colleagues' care is a big part of these doctors' recovery, so please be part of the solution. All donations are tax deductible. If you can, please consider a monthly donation, as even small amounts collectively will allow them to plan their growth to support the increased demand.